So in today's video, I thought I'd do a review of my new Radioddity DB20-G GMRS radio. This is a 20-watt radio. The name DB20-G comes from DB stands for dual band. 20 is it's a 20-watt radio, and the G signifies that it's a GMRS radio. This radio I picked up at Amazon. Currently it's $109. There is a $10 off coupon, bringing it down to $99. The coupon kind of varies. Sometimes they have the deal, sometimes they don't. Radioddity's website, you can buy the radio for the same price. They usually have a $10 coupon that you can use too. The reason I went with Amazon was just because of the quick overnight Prime delivery and the fact that if I didn't like this radio, I could send it back with no problem, whereas I believe Radioddity charges you a restocking fee. So, as I had mentioned, this is a 20-watt radio. This is a nice small portable size. I currently have a BTEC handheld GMRS radio. I believe it's rated at 4.5 watts. I wanted to have something here that I can use at home as my base station without getting something huge and elaborate. I'm part of a emergency net group on GMRS. They have weekly net meetings, and I am also a National Weather Service trained weather spotter. So usually we end up, getting on when the weather is severe. I wanted something that was a little bit more powerful so that I could reach out to the repeaters for some of these net meetings. And I thought this was a great solution. The price is right, the features are great, and I really think you can't beat this. So let's go over some of the features here. It is a very compact unit. There is a 12-volt hardwired plug, 12-volt accessory plug that comes out of the back. There is no disconnect for it, so if you wanted to wire this thing up directly into your car, you would just have to cut off the lighter plug that's on the end. All right, so let's go over some of the display features and the buttons and the functions here on the radio. So your buttons here, you've got your VFO mode. You can click on this button to change between the frequency or the channel name. You've got your main button here that allows you to change between your two different channels if you are doing a dual monitoring on the channels. The monitor button here opens up the squelch. You've got your up and down arrows for just going through the menu items and going through the channels. And then everybody makes fun of this fun button. It's really just an abbreviated button for function. So on your display, it shows you the A. We're on the A display here for the main channel that it's scanning. As I had mentioned, I've got the dual channel disabled. I like having all the information and just monitoring one channel at a time. That's why it's got the A up there. This next one is the channel number. We're on channel number 2. There are currently 500 available channels that you can save in this radio. The first 30 are the GMRS channels that are pre-programmed in the radio. And then towards the end, in the upper 400s, there are 7 NOAA weather channels that are also programmed in here that you can scroll through that are in there. What's nice is there's actually a voltage display. So my power supply is putting out the full 13.8 volts. The L that you see here signifies the power. So currently, GMRS channels, I believe it's 1 through 7 or 1 through 8 are the low power ones. That's why it's showing low. This is the channel name. You can program that in either via the radio or through the programming software. It's kind of a nice addition. This is your power meter. As you're receiving, it'll show green with the bars. As you're transmitting, it'll show red. This is the actual frequency that particular GMRS channel is on. And then here, this little box kind of flip-flops between just showing that you're on your main channel, and it shows you what your squelch channel is at. The RJ45 jack here for the microphone is on the left-hand side. This is also the same jack that you end up plugging in the supplied programming cable that they give you with the radio. And then on the right side is the volume knob, on off. You turn it. There is a green LED for when it's receiving a channel and a red LED for when you're transmitting. The microphone is actually pretty nice. It's got the nice button style mount on the back. You've got channel up and down buttons on the top. Your push to talk is on the side, and then you've got various function buttons that you can end up working and starting from the radio. There's also a 3-segment LED here. When you're receiving, it'll go up to 3 green bars, and when you transmit, it'll end up going to the red LED. So let's take a look. If we scroll through the channels, we've got your regular GMRS channels, and this is 1 through 7 are the low power channels. I believe those transmit at like a 0.5 watt. Starting at GMRS 8, even though it says high power, you cannot transmit on these channels. These next few are the FRS, the Family Radio Service channels. And because this is a high-powered mobile, you're not able to transmit on those channels at all. I know with the handhelds you normally can. I believe it's like about a 0.5 watt or so, but this is locked out. So if you try to transmit, you hear a tone, and you don't see any red levels on the meter showing that you can't transmit. So as we go through, these are the other channels. Let's see. If we get to channel 15, these are the high power 15 through, I believe it is 22. And it's nice because you do get the frequency on the bottom. So yeah, 22 is the last one. The next channel, so in channel slot 23, you would normally have your 8 repeater channels. These are the channels that are pre-programmed from the factory. However, they do not have any CTC or DCS tones by default. All right, as we go to the next one, this would normally be the next repeater channel. What I've done is I've customized these next 7 for repeaters in my area. And as you can see, I gave it actually a name. There is the plus DT in here, signifying that this is a DCS tone enabled repeater, and it's of course high power. This one is a CTC enabled repeater, and so on. And that takes me through the next 8. And then in channel slots 31 through 39, these are your do-it-yourself repeater channels. You can add 9 more out there. This comes in handy when you are traveling and you've got additional repeaters that are actually on the same frequency but are using different tones. So in my case, 7 of my repeaters that come from the factory, I've got set for the repeaters in my area. And then when I'm traveling out in Michigan, I actually have got some additional repeater channels programmed in here with different CTC codes. So that's a really, really nice feature in here. As we go through, starting in channel slot 40, you can put in 2 meter and 70 centimeter bands that you want to listen to. You cannot transmit on those, of course, since this is a GMRS only radio, but you can definitely listen, which is a really nice feature. One other thing on this channel indicator, we're on channel 40. There is an S that is next to it. That signifies that this channel is programmed. When I hit the scan, it will scan this channel. The weather channels I do not have a scan on, and some of the lower GMRS channels I also don't have a scan on. I basically only scan my repeater channels that I have programmed in, plus these additional 2 or 3. So once you get up the next channel here that I've got, this comes with the radio, as I mentioned, channel 494. These are your NOAA weather channels. So you can go through, and this is our local one.
At the Muskegon entrance, winds were south at 70 knots.
The speaker quality is great on this radio. This is the green LED I was talking about when you're receiving, and then I don't know if it shows up in the video. This is kind of it's pretty bright, but the bar is green here. It's not white, showing that you're receiving the signal. And then if you click on the next one, it starts at the beginning again. So the one feature that's pretty nice here, you can click on function, you can click on scan, and now the radio will scan through all of my frequencies that I've selected to be scannable. So basically all my repeaters plus those couple extra hand bands. And then, you know, of course, it'll stop when it finds activity on that channel. If you hit scan again, it'll go back to, you know, the channel that you have selected. So to get into the menu for the radio, you click on the function button, and you can cycle through all of the menu options that are here. Starting in the first slot, this would be your CTC SS tone. For this particular one, this is not a repeater, so it's set to off. And you can cycle through. This is your receive tone. Your squelch, if you're in wide or narrow mode. And this does have the wide capability, which was a big point for me. Here you can change your channel name. It's way easier on doing it through the CPS, the customer programming software that you can download from Radioddity. I will show you later in the video on how that application works. It's pretty cool. Compression, noise reduction, there's some additional tones if you want to beep as you're pressing the buttons. There's some timeout features here. Oh, this is actually the squelch, set to 2. Your scan mode for how long it waits after somebody, you know, stops transmitting and then it starts scanning again. The display brightness on the LCD panel, voice operations, it's pretty nice. This allows you to display the name, which is what I'm displaying here instead of the dual band with the frequencies for both. And then there's the option to restore the radio back to factory default. All right, let's go to one of the repeater channels and I'll show you. This is pretty cool. You can come in here. Oh, let's go to this one. This one is just the generic. If we come into here, your CTC code is off here. If we wanted to edit it, you end up clicking on the monitor button, and then you can actually cycle through all of the tones that are out there. So you could do the CTC tones, and what's cool is once you get past it, you will actually go into the DTC tones. They're both held within the same setting, which is kind of cool. Like I said, it's way easier in the software. So in summary, I'm really liking this radio. It's small and compact. I mean, I could definitely end up putting this into my truck or into our Jeep. I think what I would just do is order an additional bracket that's on the bottom and an additional power plug so that I could just, you know, unplug these two, leave the bracket here, and leave a bracket mounted in the car. I've seen a lot of, I think Lido makes a really nice cup holder mount that you end up putting in your cup holder in the car, and then the bracket actually attaches to it. So technically you could plug this thing into your center console, as in my case with my F-150, have the antenna connection coming out, and if I pull up somewhere, I don't want the radio in sight, I just basically pull out the cup holder mount and put it back in the center console. So was thinking, you know, this would, size-wise, because with how small this is, this might be really nice on the Honda ATV. My only thing is, I mean, this really isn't weatherproof. I know B-Tech makes a small model that is really tiny. It's weatherproof. The display and all the functions are in the handset. So I could technically hide this in the front, that little tiny trunk on the front of the Honda ATV, and just have the microphone coming out and hook it onto the handlebars. My only gripe, and the reason I didn't go with that B-Tech, is the fact that to adjust the volume, there are up and down adjustments on there, but that's for the channel. To adjust the volume, you actually have to click a button on the top, open the it's the monitor button, so you open the squelch. Once the squelch is open and you hear all the background noise like this, let me turn it up a little, like that, then you have to do your volume up and down on the microphone. It is the kludgiest system I've ever seen. And like I said, that was the main reason why I did not go with that radio, and I ended up going with this radio. Midland does make a nice small one also, with the display in the handset. The only problem with the Midland one that I saw was the fact that all the repeater channels that are there, you can only specify one set of tones, so that if you do have multiple repeaters on the same channel with different tones, you don't have the option to customize it at all and add those. And the other thing is, in that case, on the Midland, it only displays the channel number. For the repeaters, it's nice to be able to actually, put in a repeater name in here. So bottom line is, I really like this radio. I'll probably do another review on this as I put it in the truck, but I'm liking this. It's a great little base station. You can't beat the price. Between the $99 for this, I believe the Ed Fong antenna kit was around $55. Some of that money goes to his students out at the university that he teaches at in California. Another $20 for the cable, and then a few dollars for the 3/4 inch PVC pipe, and you've got yourself a nice little setup for your home. So, all right, next I'll show you how the programming software works. So in order to get the CPS, which stands for Customer Programming Software, from Radioddity, you go out to their webpage, radioddity.com, and under the support section, you'll go to the Radioddity Radio. And once you click on that, you'll see all of their radios. You'll come down to DB20-G, click on that, and then there is the programming software. The version 2.02 is the latest. When you first load the CPS software, this is the screen that you'll get. This is the default screen. It'll basically create it as this new .dat file. As you can see, Radioddity already has 30 GMRS channels that are pre-programmed into this default software. The first 7 are the low power channels, GMRS channels 1 through 7, and then the next 7 are 8 through 14. These are the channels that are shared with the FRS, the Family Radio Service channels. Those, even though they are set to high power, you are not able to transmit on those channels. The radio will just give you a beep if you key up the mic. So this power setting really doesn't matter. The first 7 channels that are out there, GMRS 1 through 7, they're by default. They are the low power channels. You cannot change those. So after you get starting on channel 15, these are GMRS channels 15 through 22. These are the high power channels that are out there. So in this case, they would broadcast with this radio at the full 20 watts. And then basically when you get to channels 23 through 30, those are your actual repeater channels. These are the same channels that are used for channels 15 through 22. So now Radioddity gives you an additional 9 do-it-yourself repeater channels that you can program. These would have to go in slots 31 through 39. But what I had found out, and you'll see when I download the My Radio settings off of the radio, the nice thing about this is even though your repeater channels here are basically 23 through 30, you don't need to use any of your 9 do-it-yourself repeater channels if you need to add any particular tones to any repeaters in your area, if that makes sense. My first thought was, oh, these repeater channels, they have an open squelch. If I want to add a custom CTCSS tone, that I would have to add them in the 9 do-it-yourself channels from 31 through 39. That's not the case. If you're not traveling and you just have repeaters around your home area, you can go in and you can change the existing channels 23 through 30 to put in your squelch tones that correspond with your repeater. The nice thing about it is then if you end up traveling, or like in our case, if we end up going out of state to the other house and there's some repeaters out there that use the same frequency, then I can go ahead and create those in rows 31 through 39 and put in custom squelch tones there so that I can access those. And then if you end up scrolling down to the bottom, there's basically room for 500 channels. If you get down here, 494 through 500, these are the NOAA weather channels that are already pre-programmed in there. So the bottom line is, if you want to add any additional repeater channels, you can do so on channels 31 through 39. Those are your 9 do-it-yourselves. If there's any 2 meter or 70 centimeter frequencies you want to monitor, you can add those starting at line 40. You would put those out there and you're just not able to transmit on those channels. So if there's any channels out here that you want to, let's say for example you have tones for a repeater, 550 repeater here, what you end up doing is you come to the right, you double click on it, it'll open up a new window. You can actually give it a channel name that it will display on your radio. You can specify if you want that channel to be scanned when you hit the scan button. And what's nice is the Radioddity radio is smart enough to know that, okay, your receiving frequency is 462.55. It automatically adds the 5 megahertz offset and creates it as 467.55. You could select your power here. The channel spacing in the step I don't touch. It's the standard DCS, and in this case for this repeater the default is there is no CTCSS or DCS codes in here. If you notice right now, the CTCSS or DCS tones are not set here, so the squelch mode is set to carrier, which means that anybody broadcasting on that repeater channel, no matter what their tone is, it will get picked up. If you're changing this to go to a specific repeater that you're using, you would end up picking the repeater tone, you know, the CTCSS tone. Let's say in this example 62.5, you set both the decode and the encode. The decode is the receive, the encode is the transmit, and then you will have to come down here to squelch mode, and it's normally set to carrier. You'll have to have it set to CTCSS, DCS, so that it knows that you're using these values. And that's basically how you edit those. So let's go ahead and download the contents of my radio so I could show you what's out there. Alright, so in order to read from the radio, you want to go and make sure that you get your COM port set. COM3 is your default, at least on mine it is. If I go to program, you could say read from radio. It'll ask you, do you want to continue? You'll say yes. Now it'll read from the radio, and on the radio display it'll also say that it's reading. You can also click on the icon up here to read from the radio. Okay, so now it says it's completed. Basically now what it's done, it's loaded my contents of the radio. It's still showing this new .dat file, and let me show you a couple things on mine. So basically all of my channels are the same, you know, 1 through 30. What I ended up doing was I wanted the channel name actually to display on the radio, not just the frequency. So I went in here and I labeled each of these GMRS 01 all the way through 22. So as I had mentioned, 01 through 07, those are the low power ones, you can't change those. GMRS 8 through 14 are the FRS channels. You can monitor those, but you can't transmit, or actually through 14. And then starting at GMRS 15 through 22, those are your 8 high power channels. And then starting on this channel 23, this is actually your repeater channels. So normally it would be repeater 15, 16, 17, etc. So what I ended up doing here, as I explained, I went in on 7 of 8 of those. I've got local repeaters that I just went in and I updated what the tones are. So in this case, this one uses a DCS. You could see the ones that use the CTCSS tones. If you end up going in here, double click here, this is what I ended up calling it. Once again, it's the standard. Here's the decode and the encode values, and then the squelch mode had to be changed from carrier. I also unchecked the scan skip box because basically what I want to do is I just want to scan the repeaters in my area. I really don't care about any kind of local traffic coming in on the other channels, you know, from 1 through 22. So I gave all of these a custom name. This one up here, repeater 15 on 467.55. That one, I don't have a local repeater, so that one's still kind of left as the default. The one other thing that I do find, and if anybody knows the answer, it'd be great, please comment below. I added 2 additional ones that are outside of my area in another state for when I'm traveling. And unfortunately, I added both. I duplicated it. I changed the name slightly on here. But I really would like to delete this line 32. And I can go in here and I can blank out the values that are here. And the problem is when I do save, that line still stays out here no matter what. So unfortunately, there's no way you can't double click on the line. That's it. I left the NOAA weather radio channels down at the bottom the same. And then when you're ready, after you make your changes, what you could do is you can go back up here to program and you could say write to the radio. I'm not going to because I'd basically be overwriting it with the same information. It'll end up saying that it's writing to the radio and then put it out there. And then what you could do is you can go ahead and you can save it as, I usually end up saving it with whatever the current date is. So I've got multiple versions of these files as I've been adding more channels. So if I do screw something up, I can go back to, you know, the previous radio load before I ended up adding those. So hopefully that helps a little bit. A lot of this stuff, these settings you can do on the radio itself. As I had shown you before, you can go through the menus. But this just makes it a lot easier, especially if you want to assign it a channel name. Because in order to do that from the radio, you know, to scroll through the letters and use the, you know, the keypad on the microphone, while you could do it, it's a little bit of a pain in the butt. This is a much easier way to doing it. So, all right, so this is a repeater 25 miles away from the house, so you can hear the sound quality.
The other day I tried spraying the contact with some spray cleaner, and so I'm getting noise, I understand, on my signal. Yeah, it doesn't sound like a mic. It sounds like your signal's slow. Okay.
All right, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys.